Welcome, everyone. So great to see all of you coming in here. We'll just wait a few more seconds to make sure everybody is on. Christy, we're good? All right. Well, welcome everyone to the 23-24 school year. I know that's probably strange because your school year has definitely already started, right? So the fact that I'm welcoming all of you, you're probably thinking I'm so past the welcome right now. But we're so excited to have you with us. This is our first kickoff meeting for the year, so we are just thrilled to have all of you. I mean, I have 3 pages of people on right now because I need to read some things. We're going to go over a few updates, but I'm just so excited to see each and every one of you. Looking forward to sharing a little bit. We're just going to take a few minutes. Once again, my name is Anna DeJulia, and I'm the president of Swipe, and we have about 6 board members on today with us as well. We have several who are traveling, recruiting overseas at the moment, who will not be with us, but we will be reporting updates from them as well. So we just wanted to share some of the exciting news we have coming up. We had a 4-hour board retreat at the beginning of September. And our big announcement and news that we were teasing it with the email, the intro email that got sent out, is that we are now officially incorporated as a nonprofit in the state of Florida. As of last night, believe it or not, it was a good thing for me to get on it before today. I wanted to be able to share that with you today. So we're so excited. Our official name is called Swipe Global Incorporated. I cannot believe how many Swipe names there actually were as nonprofits in the state of Florida. It really surprised me. So I couldn't take Swipe Inc. So we are officially Swipe Global, but we're still our branding. You're going to see our logo later is Swipe Inc. So we're so happy to share that with you. We will be sharing much more of what's coming down the pike as the school year goes on. We had a 4-hour virtual board retreat. Our eyes were cross-eyed by the time we were done, but we got so much done in that time together. So I'd just like to share a little bit of some of the updates of our vision statement and our mission statement, and then I'm going to pass it off to Kimberly Jones, who's our vice president, and she's going to be moderating a quick, short discussion with our board members on the specific updates that you're going to be hearing about and experiencing this year. So I think the first hour of the board retreat was really about wordsmithing and trying to understand what our vision statement and our mission statement is. We wanted to make it broad enough that it wasn't so concise that it would kind of contain us in, but we wanted to be clear enough to know who we are. So our vision statement is that we envision connected and empowered communities through a network of flourishing K-12 international student programs that cultivate global citizens and cultural awareness all over the globe. So that is our vision of what we want to see happen all across, right, with many, many different organizations along with ours. Our specific mission statement, we call us the Swipe community. We felt very strongly that we are a specific community who supports excellence in international education at the K-12 level through collaboration, professional development and expertise, advocacy, and the promotion of member programs. So in a sense, we were saying, we don't only want collaboration amongst ourselves, professional development, helping our programs, advocacy at the national level. We also want to be able to promote other member programs, not just the Swipe program. So we want to kind of be like a clearinghouse of sorts for the K-12 level. And you'll see how that is going to kind of filter into our decision-making and our 2-year strategic plan. But we hope that you can resonate with that. We'll be sharing those statements more specifically in the coming months. And stay tuned to the end because I'm going to share a little bit more about our 2-year specific strategic plan. But for now, I just want you to hear a little bit briefly from our specific board members. So Kimberly Jones, our vice president, will now be moderating the update discussion. Kimberly?
Yes. So thank you. It is so good to see all of you back with us, and some that are new. We are happy to have you. We welcome you. So I'm just going to go over some brief announcements from each focus area and introduce the board members that are head of that area. And I'll start with Anna and I. Anna and I have been meeting with various potential partners who really have a desire to be a resource to Swipe and for our member schools. And we will share some of those partnerships in the new year to those that are listed as member schools. And then from our membership updates, we want you to know that Swipe continues to grow and serve many schools across the U.S. Membership is currently at 65 active schools across the country and continues to grow. So we're excited about that. Our reach to support schools is primarily through word of mouth. So it is our hope and desire that each member school will tell other schools about Swipe and its benefits. And such benefits will include a membership directory, travel sharing, where we will provide info and details of locations our members travel for recruitment, which could actually help other schools decide if the locale is a good fit for their school. And these benefits, among others, are for members only. So in a moment in the chat, I will include the membership link for schools who have not completed the membership. I just did mine yesterday, so it's probably 66 now. But if you still need to complete the member survey to be a member, please do so after I put that link in the chat, and please share that membership link. Our membership is headed by Jane Lacoste. She is currently in Seoul, Korea, along with Eric Dewey, who is responsible for our data management. And he simply asked he wants you to know that in order to continue receiving emails this year and invitations, you must be a part of the 23-24 member listserv, which means if you filled out a listserv last year, but you didn't do it this year, you must fill out that member survey in order to continue receiving information. That will be the only listserv that we use going forward to communicate with member schools. So that link is going to be very important to complete. Governance updates. Jean Wang and Jerubi Petit-Friere are working on our bylaws. They will guide Swipe in our operations, and those bylaws will be shared in the coming months. So we're excited about that. Followed by calendar planning and communications. And Jerubi, if you're on, and Jean, can you just wave so everyone knows who you are? They are in charge of our governance updates. And then we have Elizabeth Williams and Christy Horst, who are responsible for our calendar planning and communications. And their updates are simply, they want you to know what's coming up next month for our next meeting, which is what to do in cases of linguistic, cultural mismatches. Supporting teachers means supporting multilingual learners. And that's going to be with Dr. Shelley Taylor. And also note that if you miss a meeting, you will be able to get a recap and the follow-up emails as long as you're going to hear me say this over and over again, as long as you are in that member listserv, you will be able to receive the video should you miss a meeting, so don't fear. Also, member connection. We began this organization with one of the main benefits being connecting with other schools and sharing ideas and concerns. And we are being very intentional about getting back to that place of connection. And so Joelle Williams, if you wouldn't mind waving, Joelle, she will be heading up our member connection and creating platforms such as Post and Zoom for more consistency for our Swipe members, our Swipe schools, to connect and get together and talk about concerns and ideas. This will be in addition to our monthly meetings, and Joelle will need those of you who have indicated interest in helping to facilitate these school connections to place your name and email in the chat so that she can reach out to you, and she will have more details to come. Finally, our website updates. We are so excited. Our website is coming soon. It's about to be launched, and it will feature a resource page, member connection page, a member directory, school profiles, and swipe data, among other features. So we are so excited. Swipe is on the move, and we want you to take this ride with us. So please, if you haven't already, make sure you are a member. Kim Hammond has designed our website. We are so grateful to her. And I don't know if she has the logo. Kim, do you have the logo to share up? Or I do. Actually, I think I have it up. Okay, let me see. Give me 1 second to share my screen. I think, oh, I don't have sharing privileges.
Kimberly, let me make you a co-host, then you can share it.
Okay. So our logo does need some tweaking. We're still working on brand, but here is our logo, School with International Programs of Excellence, SWIPE being established in 2020. So we are so excited that we now have a logo so that we can start creating literature and posting our website, and you will be able to direct traffic to our website and to others to receive information. So thank you so much for those announcements. And now I'm going to hand it back over to Anna.
Thank you, Kimberly. So as you can see, we have a lot going on this year. We're so excited about it. And just want to share one last thing. We have a 2-year strategy. So my goal is to increase membership, school membership. And we need your help. We need people to spread it by word of mouth. I also need your help in terms of trying to understand how are we going to connect with one another. We know we have these monthly check-ins. Joelle is going to be spearheading that effort, but how would you like to connect? We're going to have some poll surveys coming out. Do you want to meet with people with the same programs as you? Program size? Would you like to meet geographically? You know, what are the needs that you have? We really want to be responsive to your individual needs that go way beyond the listserv. We're excited to start building a membership, a school membership, and creating materials and representing all of you well. So first year campaign is to get our schools up. And if we can get our school membership up, our second year strategic part of our campaign is to have an initiative to work with partners and sponsors. So we want to be able to build Swipe with our partners, with our sponsors, as sort of like a clearinghouse of a lot of different types of programs. And I'm personally hoping, I know our K through 12 budgets are not similar to the university or college level budgets. So I'm really hoping that we can keep our membership really, really low and that you can get a lot from that membership. So that's basically our overall 2-year strategic strategy. So I hope you feel the energy. We're going to get started with our speaker right now. We have a big vision. We have an aggressive vision. We have an amazing board. If you know some of them, please reach out and give your thanks. They are just incredible. We can't do this alone, and we need your help. We want you to be part of it as well. So we'll be reaching out for some volunteer opportunities as well. Last comment, this recording is going to be shared, can be shared with whomever you'd like. Moving forward, I'm not sure how many months we're going to allow that, maybe next month as well. We're not 100% sure. We'll let you know. But at this point, it's going to be whoever fills out the survey, you're going to be having access to that recording. Okay, but for this month, share it with whoever you like. If you want to introduce us and they need to understand a little more of who we are and where we're going, please feel free to share the recording. So without further ado, Elizabeth Williams, if you would introduce our esteemed speaker.
Yes, I'm excited to have Terri Fraser with us today. And this is actually my first time meeting Terri as well, although we've emailed quite a bit over the last few months. And I'm so thankful for her willingness to share. So Terri brings a unique perspective, as she herself was an international student after growing up overseas. And she has many years of international corporate marketing and program management experience, and then worked for 10 years in building and managing international student programs at 2 different schools. And today she's going to share with us practical tips and resources for your international student program. And so I'm thankful for the practical tips and resources that we're going to be able to implement right away after hearing this valuable presentation today. All right, I will turn it over to Terri. Thank you, Terri.
Thanks. I think only one participant can share their screen at a time. So maybe we need to get Kimberly's off. I believe.
I thought I stopped sharing.
Yeah, you should be good, Terry. You're
Okay,
still a
cool.
co-host.
There we
so you
go.
should be fine.
Right. I think I had the wrong thing on. Perfect. All right. Well, thank you. It's great to be with everybody. When they asked me to do this topic, practical tips and resources, this is kind of hard to narrow it down to 45 minutes because there's so much information that can be shared. So we'll just jump through some things. And then the best thing about these meetings is then you can glean one little good idea and maybe discuss it with other people as well, which is what a lot of this is for the networking and collaboration. So we'll get started. So yes, Elizabeth introduced me, and then so obviously I do have a US passport. I shouldn't say obviously, I do have a US passport, but I grew up overseas and I came back. My parents put me on the plane when I was 18 to come back for university. And even though I have blue eyes, speak English, US passport, I really felt like an international student. I had no idea what was going on culturally, linguistically, socially. It was a very difficult couple of years. So I tell some of my international students my stories and they laugh at me, which is great, but they resonate with some of the experiences that I have. So it's a little bit different perspective. And then I did retire in June. I say retired because I'm semi-retired. We actually started hosting a student this year, which is fantastic to kind of just stay in the groove of the international program, but then also just to share our home with this young lady. So I am available anytime for questions or suggestions if you need, or if you want to have somebody come in and pick up some projects that you don't really want to take care of or you don't have time. So practical tips and resources. So practical tips, I'm going to leverage my business background to really kind of dive into that. So I know that a lot of times people that are in the position of running an international student program are maybe more of like a teaching background, from an academic background. I haven't met a lot of other people that have a business background like I do. So sometimes it's like just paradigm shift that can help you maybe think about processes or ways to look at your business, your program a little bit differently. That might be helpful, I'm hoping. And then we'll talk about some customer experience. And then I have some really fast, quick tips. And as far as resources, there'll be resources for the international directors, for your hosts, as well as your school support staff, just so you can kind of get a good idea of where we're headed. So the first thing is we're going to dive into this a business term called a SWOT analysis, and it's not like swatting a fly, although sometimes you might want to. And part of the reason I'm doing this business thing is when all of us really need to usually we're looking to get more students, and we work with agencies, and agencies are businesses. So if we can think like a business as we're working with businesses, that's helpful. So just to keep that in mind. So with a SWOT analysis, it stands for strength, weakness, opportunity, threat. And really it's kind of nice to like take a moment and just step back. And we get so into all of the daily routine of everything, all of the things that we have going on, all the hats we fill. But it's nice to kind of take a step back and kind of go above the trees and then look down at the forest in a really different way. So if you're going to do a SWOT analysis, I would never suggest that you do it all at one time. You just kind of, as you're thinking of something, write it down, take a few, maybe brainstorm with somebody else for a little bit. It's kind of like a build it in process plan. But once you have some things identified, then you're going to leverage all of that. And then you're going to just prioritize. Okay, you can't be all things to all people, of course. So what can you do easily? And then apply the information. So we're just going to walk through the process a little bit. So if I like to build like when I do this, have done this in corporate, build like a side-by-side, the strengths and weaknesses is internal. So if you think about what's happening within your organization, and I'll be honest, the strengths are sometimes the hardest thing to think of because we want to sit in weaknesses. Well, I would have a bigger program if I was at such and such school, or if we had that thing, or if our school was in this state. It's so much easier to focus on the weaknesses because the grass is always greener, right? But so the strengths is almost to me the most difficult part. So I would suggest that you kind of like think pretend that you're kind of in the school, but you're not in your role, and kind of walk around and think about what do we actually have at our school that makes it a strength. And first of all, name yourself, because you're obviously an amazing director. You're here getting information, sharing, collaborating with others. And then just fill in different things. I just gave you some ideas. I have no idea what your school is like. You likely have an infrastructure. You're likely all CVIS approved. You have some type of established high school with facilities, things like that. You have F1 students, most likely, and you probably have alumni. Those are also things that are our internal, our strengths. Whatever else you have. So it could be, maybe you have a 10-to-1 student ratio, that, or teacher to student ratio. That's great. Or maybe you offer summer school. A lot of agencies are looking to bring kids for short term, and summer is a one that they ask for frequently. So, but really take some time to think about, maybe ask even one of your other, like a domestic parent, hey, why did you choose to send your student here versus the public school down the street or the other private school across town? Just to help you think about some of those strengths. And then you're going to list all your weaknesses, things that are internal that you're just like, wow, we don't have budget for me to travel, or I really need to get new agencies in different countries because there's a move and a shift in the market and industry trends, things like that. So just think through and kind of write down what the internal things that are weaknesses, things that you would prefer that were, things that you don't like, or things that you think make it difficult for you to do your job or to gain more students, things like that. And then you're going to look at the OT, which is opportunity and threat. And this is really from an external viewpoint. So put the hat on of an agent or an applicant parent or student, and think about what are the things that are opportunities that might be things that they think, their perception, that are really good, that are an opportunity, that are a good thing. So location. Now location can always be both a weakness and an opportunity, right? But I will tell you that no matter where your school's at, it's an opportunity, because if you're in New York City or Los Angeles, then of course students love big cities. But if you're in a small town Michigan, what you can talk about is, hey, we're safe, it's protected, it's small town, Midwest feel, there's no accent, things like that. English accent, it's very clean accent. Your cost, very few students Asian students at the school. You might think that's a weakness, but actually a lot of students don't want to be one of 25 Chinese or one of 25 Korean, especially. They don't want there to be too many Asian students. So just think about, how does your school stack up against the competition, but things that are outside of your control, okay? And then, of course, we have threats that are external factors that are completely out of our control. Yes, there was a worldwide pandemic, basically closed down all of our international programs, right? The Chinese are moving towards international schools that are within China. They're keeping that money in China. Gun violence, right? We can't control that, but that is something that's an objection that we need to overcome. So basically, you're listing here the reasons that parents may not want to send, or agencies may not want to send students to your school, or just to the US in general. Because those are objections you're going to have to try to overcome later. So whatever those might be. So once you've kind of done this, and do it a little bit and then leave it, and then come back to it, and get other feedback, and then you'll find it kind of building out to be reflective of your environment, your school. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to take all of this and you're going to develop like a little, Swipes has like a 2-year strategy. You're going to develop a 1 to 2 year plan, or even a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year plan, right? Where are we? Where are we headed? And the nice thing is, now that you've showcased, you've written down all the strengths, that's what you want to showcase in your marketing material. And maybe you take it and refresh it and do it a different way. So that's a great place to start. The opportunity, and the opportunities as well. So all of the positives, you're going to include that in all your marketing material, and emails to agents, any communication that you have. If you have great students and alumni, showcase them. A personal story is always the best way to increase enrollment, to help. And then you're going to choose 1 or 2 weaknesses or opportunities that are achievable. So let's say, gun violence. Well, that's nothing that we can control, but what is something that we can control? Let's say we have one of our weaknesses is that we don't have a unique website or unique application materials for international students. Well, can you fix that this year or in the next 18 months? Then that's something to go tackle. So you just want to make it achievable. And then you're really going to want to update it. The industry is constantly changing. So as it changes, you need to kind of refresh, go back to your SWOT analysis and think about it again. And then lastly, share the information with others, right? Share it with your head of school. If that's who you report to, or to your boss, to the board, get buy-in. A lot of times we know our programs, but all of the other decision makers at the school don't. So you definitely want to get their buy-in and help them understand your program. And I know that they'll appreciate the work that you did to kind of come up with a plan and the things that maybe some of the strengths, well, not maybe, usually some of the strengths for international are also strengths for the domestic program. So then your domestic advancement team or marketing team or admissions team could glean some of that information from you. You guys could work together on kind of showcasing the positives, the strengths. One thing to keep in mind too, well, actually, we're going to move into another topic here. So that's a SWOT analysis. The tip number 2 is when I said like customer. So you're going to really want to build a student-centric program. So you need to understand your, this is a business from your stakeholders. It's really your customers involved. And that will help you to build a strong relationship with all the customers because they need to support each student. So you can't be all things to all people, but you do need to understand the customer experience, who's doing what, all those things. Businesses do customer-focused, customer-centric things a lot. If they don't, they go under because there's always competition. And one thing to remember is one bad customer experience, you've all had them, you're probably going to post it on Facebook, Instagram, next door neighbor, whatever, and tell 10 people. If you have a great experience, you don't necessarily talk about it. So we really want to make sure that we're building our customer experience to be really positive. So we're going to talk mostly about our 3 most important customers, which is our students, our host parents, and our external agency and parents. So if you look at your stakeholders, I just listed these. There might be different ones at your school. I didn't include athletic director. That's one of them maybe, but obviously your student is your number 1 customer or stakeholder. And really everything should be revolving around that student, right? That's your focus to make sure they're having a great experience at your school. And so the yellow is agents and home parents. I put them in yellow because they're kind of outside of the country. Normally, sometimes agents are in the country, but usually they're outside of the country. And then what networks do you have at your school, right? You have all of these people that are affecting your student experience. So student body, you can't, and you're under your control, like at 8th grade, maybe some 8th grade girls are being made into your 8th grade international girl student, and that's just 8th grade, right? You can't really help that. But what can you do to kind of build the customer experience with keeping all of these different groups in mind? So we're going to focus on, like I said, homestay right now first. Actually, nope, I lied. We're going to focus on students. Sorry about that. So for your student, what are you doing to make sure that your student has a great customer experience at your school? So it's, we want to enroll students and find them and bring them. And then we get, a lot of times international program directors, we wear so many hats, we have so limited time. It's really hard to build that one-on-one relationship with a student. But if you are running a one-man show or one-man shop, this is really important. If you have other people helping you, so let's say you have wellness and people, mental health people, or teachers that, if you have a really large program, engage a teacher to kind of like have a one-on-one relationship with your student, things like that. That's also very, very helpful. So regardless of who does it, I would really advise you to have like a scheduled monthly one-on-one check-in with your student. So it could be during their study hall, during a lunch. I have like often pulled some of my students out of math because math is usually the one class that is so easy for them, not pull them out of English or history or anything like that. But just to like, they know that they have scheduled time with you. And I just tell them, we're going to talk about your social, like who are you eating lunch with? And did you go to homecoming? What happened there? Their academic, look at their grades with them. How's everything going? And then how's everything going at home as a host family, especially if you manage the homestay. And even if you don't manage the homestay, your name's on that visa, on that F1. And I still feel like we're kind of morally and ethically obligated to know kind of what's going on with them at home. But really get to know them and build bridges. When something happens, then when there's a problem or something great, then it's really helpful to have that bridge relationship. And also they're going to go tell their mom and dad, or they're going to go tell their agent, wow, my director, they really know me. They care about me. They want to be, you know, they have my back. Like they are an advocate for me. And just remember, like, these are children and they're far away from home. And that is so, so difficult. As an 18-year-old far, far away from home, I don't really have an advocate. And it can be very, very hard. Growing up these days as a teenager is hard enough with it when you're with your home parents, and imagine being somewhere else. So just keep in mind that you are their advocate. So really think of ways to build a lot of relationship with them. Roll out the red carpet, right? They're paying usually a premium. So make sure they're feeling like they're getting a premium experience, right? Just little things that you can do, even like I used to put on my calendar for their birthday and then just get them a little something that I have included in my budget, but like a little $20 gift. Or if it was a guy, I usually bring them, they always like food. I'd bring a pizza at lunch and then they could share it with their friends, things like that. Anything that you can do to make them feel special and that they're building that relationship. Because again, they are your number one customer. A bad student experience, they get online and they're like, don't go to this school, and you don't want that, right? Hosts. So I also really focus a lot on hosts. So if you don't run a homestay, that's different. But if a lot of us do run a homestay program, and I will say, I believe that it's much more difficult to recruit and keep a really good host than to find a good student. And homestay is really the backbone. So during, you know, some things that you could do, host families are busy, right? Everybody's busy. Providing the school calendar way ahead in advance so that they know they may or may not be part of your school community, so that they know what's going on when. Have quarterly roundtables at a minimum, or check-ins. There's multiple ways to do this. Sometimes there's like a lead host that's meeting with 3 new hosts, all of that, but somehow, again, that relationship so that they can get feel the encouragement and get additional training that they need as they're dealing with raising someone else's teenager from a different culture, from a different language. That's a lot to ask of hosts. And then recognize their work, right? Like maybe you find out that somebody's, you know, mother died or something, send some flowers, have the student make sure that they're sending flowers and being aware of what's going on in that host family. I've even had things where, you know, a host mom had surgery. So then we actually like stepped in, okay, this is different. This is beyond what you're signed up for. Let's get that student somewhere else for a while so that it's a burden off of you. You don't have to worry about one more child in the home. Anything that you can do to come alongside, even helping with carpooling, coming up with, not you doing it necessarily, but connecting the host with other parents for carpooling is helpful. So that so things that will help them when it's in April, like, hey, do you want to re-up and host again? You've done a lot of the hard stuff for them. So they're like, yeah, it's fine. Cause you've been helpful. And then always being available to help with conflicts that come up, which will come up. But planning respite times is helpful too. So even if some schools don't have formal respite, which is just like giving the host a weekend off, but I always encourage hosts just to take at least like one weekend off during the school year, if not more. And then have a solid list of respite hosts where the kids can go, just to give the host family a little break, just so they can kind of regroup, especially if they have their own children or child at home. It's nice to have some time alone with them. And host siblings, those kids can often make or break the deal. So let's say the host daughter has to now share a room. Maybe it's not going well. There's so many issues that can come up, but I've often had a host will say, we really enjoyed the student, but our children are having a hard time with this situation. So for those reasons, we're not going to continue to host anymore next year. So when that's happened in the past, then I realized, oh yeah, we need to have make the host siblings feel important. So like even like if you're doing homestay and they're at your school, like even like a luncheon for the kids, let them kind of check in with them, see how they're doing, let them know that you are also their advocate. You are a neutral party. You can kind of help with some of the disputes that might be happening at home, just to so that they feel like they're heard is the main thing. And then the other big stakeholder, big customer to always be considering is your agents and your home parents, because those are your referrals for future students. Think of them as like a sales funnel, right? I've just proactively gone to parents sometimes and said, hey, since I know you really like the school, you like the program, who else do you know that would be interested in coming? And sometimes I've even offered them like a commission. If they can send it to a student and help, then I've actually kind of equipped them to become a little bit of an agent, and just have, offset some of their tuition a little bit. But you want to make sure that the agent or the home parent, whoever's working with you or both, is really comfortable throughout the application process. So if there's questions, you're answering them immediately. It's not a big scary thing for them. They feel like they're sending their child to somebody who cares, somebody who's going to take care of the child, not just off into the world, especially when they're, we're talking 8th, 9th, 10th graders. It can be really scary to send your kiddo out. And then arrival process too. Of course, pictures of that, a lot more communication at the beginning in August when the students arrive. Let the parents know how they're doing, check in with them. Another thing that I have done, and I've been, the agents and parents usually say, wow, you're the first American that does this. I will reply so fast to any communication from them. And the way I do that is just, I check my email, all my social media for overseas every night, right before I go to bed. And then first thing when I wake up in the morning. Now, of course, with that, I had different work hours. So I wasn't expected to roll into school at 8. I rolled in later because a lot of times that was the best time for the agent, best time for the home parent to do business or to talk through an issue. And they really appreciate that. A lot of times they say, well, I've had my friends, they have to do things in the middle of the night, to have a conversation in the middle of the night in China, middle of the night Korea, but you're available when it's good for us. And so they like that. And again, it's a competitive situation because there's many schools out there. So what can you do to kind of think about your customer and put yourself in the customer's shoes and then gain their business, right? And of course, cultural differences. Oh man. And we have, multiple countries at our school. So it's hard. You're constantly learning new cultures and learning different differences and different perspectives. I have spent a lot of time even reading books, historical fiction or other types of books, just to learn about different cultures, if for Africa or Latin America, Asia, etc. Just to understand a little bit more is really helpful. And that's helpful for you in educating host parents, teachers, administration, and also just engaging with your parents. They're going to really appreciate that. Your agencies are going to appreciate when you recognize things about the culture. I started doing a quarterly newsletter, which was really just photos of student activities. And then I provided relevant information that the agents then could pass along even to prospective families. And I also utilized this information, this like newsletter, to prospective agencies, even agents that I didn't have an agreement with, that maybe I had met at a conference, things like that. I didn't even have students with them, but you're putting something out there. And the main thing is to show that your school is like a great place to be and the value add, but then also what are important things culturally that the parents may not understand. Of course, like dual credit, what does that mean? Or ACT versus SAT, they really have a hard time understanding that. What about a college resume? A lot of the parents just want their students to make good grades. They don't have time for basketball. That's for people that can't study. We're not doing sports or all these other activities. It's like, no, your student actually needs a college resume, and explaining the college acceptance process, things like that in a very short, brief way, that then they can utilize, the agents can utilize that to help. It helps the agents. So help them help themselves. And again, then when they're thinking, I have a student, where should I send them? Hopefully your school is top of mind. And of course, if you can go visit, that's the number one thing. Relationships are really key. Having done international business for a long time, I will say, just honestly, Americans are not great at this. When we go overseas, whoever we're visiting does not just pick up us at the airport and drop us at the hotel. They are like with us all the time, rolling out the red carpet, taking us to dinners, doing so many things, paying for our hotel, all of these things. I'm not suggesting that you do all of that if they come here, but if they do come here, If like your parents come for graduation, or you're lucky enough to have an agent come, make sure that you have a lot of planned activities for them. Talk to them ahead of time to know what their schedule is, but try your best to put on the hat of the culture that you're working with and treat them the same. That will stand out so much for them because they won't expect that. And then if you can go, that's a great opportunity, especially if you can, maybe you're meeting with a parent and you can just say, hey, I'm going to take you to dinner. Would you be able to bring some other friends that might have an interest in learning more about studying in the United States? And then you're answering any questions about studying or applying or whatever, and then leave them, talk about your school as well. So all of these things, just to always be putting on the hat of your customer, your stakeholder, and think of all of these different groups as your customer. Okay, so then here's some really quick tips. So one thing that's been really helpful for me is to create like a month-by-month calendar of key activities and refer to it often. So I would write it up and then print it and put it right in front of my face, right behind my computer in the office. Because as you guys know, the day gets crazy, you get pulled in all these directions. And every once in a while, you have 30 minutes, you're at your desk, and I'm like, wow, I don't have an emergency right now. There's no student coming in. What should I be doing to maximize my time? If you look up at that calendar and it's right there, then you know, okay, it's this month. These are the things that I've done. Here's what I've got coming up next month. What can I get done right now in the 30 minutes that I have? The other really nice thing about this is if you move on to a different position, this kind of month by month laundry list of things to do is very helpful as you delegate your responsibilities to other people. But the also nice thing is if you have to do like a year-end review and your boss is like, well, what did you do? What are you up to? Well, then you have this ready and say, this is what I've been doing. And it's also really helpful for like job descriptions, because as you know, international student programs, again, we wear so many different hats. It's very difficult to explain to other people what you do. So that helps. Keeping your budget up to date. Do you have a budget? Do you know how it operates, or is it just in your finance department? My personal experience is the international program is often kind of a school within a school. It's not always like that, but even if it's not like a school within a school, it's still a really good idea that you know what your budget is, so that not just leaving it up to finance, because then sometimes you need a really quick answer in finance, like it's going to have to wait a couple of weeks to get you your actual numbers. But it's just good fiscal responsibility to know, like, how much money should I actually be spending for this dinner to celebrate for Spring Festival? What is my return on investment, my actual cost per student? If you get like a Vietnamese, oftentimes agent, they're going to want to have a little bit of a deal, right? They want a little bit of a discount. If you can pull up an Excel spreadsheet and know exactly what your cost is per student, then you can, if your boss allows you to, you can kind of wheel and deal like a car salesman on the fly. And that actually can help you get the student right then. It's so much easier if you can know what your numbers are. And again, not all schools are going to allow you to do that, but if you know your margin, how much you can your wiggle room, that's really helpful. Or even for scholarships, if the student can't afford, then you know exactly what your per student cost is. Not everybody loves Excel spreadsheets, but again, it's just kind of like a business world thing coming from the business world. That's been very helpful. Create an offline and an online folder for every single student, every single agent, every single host, so that then you can find stuff easily. It just takes a couple extra minutes when you get an email or you have to print something off, just put it in a folder so that it's not just out everywhere. When you have like 20 plus students, it's hard to sometimes find all your stuff that you need for one student if it's not being saved individually, like even in an email folder or conversations you had with the host, things like that. Follow up with all your potential agents and applicants. I would suggest October. And even if you don't have a single applicant yet, you could just let them know, hey, we have limited seats for next year. We're on a competitive basis, rolling application, whatever it is. just to kind of get the ball rolling, and for them to think that there may not be an opportunity, because if they wait too late, just to kind of get anything for them to apply sooner, or hey, if you apply by November 1st, then we'll give you a little bit of discount, just like universities do. So a lot of times in K through 12, we're thinking like K through 12, but if we could really shift to be thinking more like a university, and universities will do all of those things, it helps you be in a competitive advantage to get that the customer, the student. I always like to do bigger and better, or like we call it a very fancy as postmortem analysis. So anytime I do something like a student orientation, I've always written up kind of my plan of what I'm going to do. And then like a couple of days after, I go back in and write down, here's what went really well. Here's what I'm not ever doing again. Here's what's not good. And then what can I do different next time? And then, because otherwise, if so you have student orientation in August, and then, next July, you're like, oh yeah, I think there were some things that went really well, but I can't remember what those were. But if I do it right then, I can just pull that document back up and it's right there for me. So I would always do that. And you can, as you're building your overall vision or strategy for your student program, you can kind of build in, the first year we're going to do this, but then the second year we're going to do things bigger and better and do that. So for example, I had a cultural festival. I started out small and then it got bigger and better. Now it's grown, and it's a really big anticipated activity where in September the kids are coming and saying, when is the festival? When's the festival? Because we did that bigger and better. Okay, so those are kind of my tips. So now we're going to talk about resources. I don't like that this isn't super interactive, but so some resources for you, for your host, for the student, like the teachers. I would recommend all three of these. Little Soldiers is a book I read several years ago. Lenore Chu is a Chinese American. She's Chinese born in America. Journalist, and she went to China, and she was deciding if she was going to put her child in a Chinese school or an international school. So this is a very interesting, she's kind of like a documentary kind of themed, but it's entertaining. It reads quick, but I did not truly understand the Chinese school system until I read this book. And now I understand it. And it's very fascinating. You'll understand your Chinese parents so much better after reading this book. This book also helped me explain to teachers, to staff, to host parents, why are these parents sending their children away? I don't understand. If you read this book, you will understand why they're sending them and why they're taking that risk. So I would highly recommend that. It's fairly entertaining. If you have not heard of Third Culture Kids, I'd also recommend this book. A third culture kid is someone who's, a little bit American, a little bit Chinese, and then they're together. They're kind of this new culture. And so this is a book that helps you understand. It's written not only for third culture kids to understand themselves a little bit better. There's a lot of psychological and mental health things that go in with being an international student, being a third culture kid, and this book will help you understand that a lot. So definitely your health and wellness team, maybe read this or look through it, have access to it. And then this last one it's a website. It has some information that's awesome. And I really, really like, last year I did a series for our host families on parachute kids. So parachute kid is a third culture kid, but a parachute kid is where the parent literally just drops them off, right? And then all of the adversity that child feels and things that they have to overcome. So it's very helpful to understand how to help that student. So again, this would be something for your health, your mental wellness, for the host families, for you to understand how to come around your student and give them the support that they need. And the video is pretty short. It's interesting. And again, there's lots more resources on that website. And that's gonna, okay. Some other resources. Mental health is a big thing, especially right now. It's a big thing for domestic students. It's also becoming a big thing for our international students. Of course, it's optimum if you have all the bells and whistles and you have a strong mental health group at your school that can give your student a really good mental health screening test and then give them counseling and all of that. I came from smaller schools. We just didn't have the resources. But these are some other things that you can do. An ACE test is you can get these online and just kind of measures traumatic childhood experience. So we're thinking, well, why would our international students have trauma? Maybe their parents are divorced, just the fact that a lot of them have been in boarding school since they were very little. The fact that they are here, they may not want to be here. That's a trauma for them. So just kind of understanding that. Now, as international student directors, we don't really have the ability to know what to do with the information, but if you can probably talk to someone at your school and get resources like, hey, this kid scored really high on their ACE. I'm very worried. How do I equip our host? How do I equip the teachers to deal with a student? What do we need to be aware of? Because we don't want to have our students having bulimia or cutting or all of the things that happen with our students. We want to keep them safe. And even just doing a love language test. Those are online and those are fun to do. I had some big surprises last year when I did that for some of my students and finding out that I've been giving gifts to this kid and he could care less about gifts. He wants words of affirmation. So then I'm writing him little notes, you know, you're doing a great job or things like that. But love language and giving that information to the host parent so they know how to love that child. We all test for English, right? ITEP, TOEFL, Duolingo, all of these, right? But I just want to make sure a really quick resource, not only to use it for entrance criteria, but give the information to all the teachers that deal with that student and to their hosts. We had a little kid who was like 12. His English was perfect. I thought, oh, he speaks so much English. His English is great. But he was kind of doing some funny things sometimes. And I gave him a test and his listening skills were very low. He had no accent, but he wasn't understanding what we were telling him. So that's why when given directions, he wasn't following directions. So give the information to the host and help them interpret the data just so that they know what to look for. If you run a homestay, I cannot highly recommend enough host a student because you won't know what you're talking about, talking to your host families until you've had a student in your home. Even if you could just be a respite, it brings so much like respect when people are like, oh, you have a student at your house too. Oh, so then you know what I'm talking about when I say this student won't do blah, blah, blah. You know what's happening. You can give good information. ISEF, it's a great it's a great resource for you to recruit. It's like speed dating where you're going to go and meet agents from all over the world. There's a lot of valuable insight. I will give you the caveat that it's pretty expensive if you're on a low budget, and the return on investment, you might have to wait 2, 3, 4 years for that. But if you could go at least once, I would highly recommend it. And then there's also great like newsletters and emails that are sent out with more information. Reach out to the international community in your area. If you're thinking, how do I grow this program? I have a small program. I'm not sure what to do. Just get on the street and go find other international spaces. You're trying to attract international. So how do you find out what's near you and educate yourself? So go talk to ethnic churches, university international groups, and always be saying, well, hey, we have an international program. Do you know of anybody that might want to come to the US with an F1 visa and go to school? It doesn't hurt. And also ethnic churches can also be good options for helping you run a spring festival party or providing food sometimes to some of your dinners to make actual real food. Or hosting. There's lots of opportunities. So just think about where are international people already in my community. Let me go talk to them. WANET is another organization very similar to Swipe. It's faith-based. There's a very low membership fee, but then it includes stuff like this, but also an annual 2-day symposium where everybody gets together and talks. So that's something else you might want to think about. CVIS, we love to hate CVIS, but they can be helpful. So sometimes CVIS by the numbers is, I always ask my CVIS rep for that. And it really tells me like the industry forecasting, right? Like why is our program shrinking? Oh, because we're only attracting Chinese students, and oh, there's less Chinese students coming to the US. Why is that? So then it helps you kind of shift your focus. So that CVIS actually can give you some good information as well as being helpful. And then anytime I'm having trouble with docs, I mean, I just call the 800 number. They're usually very helpful, or your CVIS rep. There was a ton of information. I speak very fast, so I'm glad this was being recorded. But then if you want to continue the conversation, you have questions or suggestions, or you want a little bit of help, I'm available to help out. Just let me know. There's my information. And I'm going to stop sharing and then look at the chat, and then we'll see, Elizabeth, what we want to do from here, because I think we have like 4 more minutes.
Yes, we usually open up just for some question and answers in the chat, and just if anybody has any, I mean, I'm not sure, Terri, if you can stay on a few more minutes, if anyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
Okay, so we do have a little time. I would like to make a couple announcements before we go to Q&A. So just so that we can end with the Q&A with Terri. First of all, Terri, that was chock full. Oh my goodness. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
I was like, I could do like 3 days on this.
I love how you combined organizational practice for ISPs. I mean, you just kind of, it's so beautiful what you did. And I love the bubble chart. That's really a good like grid to be able to look at your international program by all those bubbles. That'd be really a good, good exercise to go through. But our next meeting is going to be November 9th on a Thursday. What else did I want to say? Kimberly and I are planning on going to ISEF, speaking of ISEF in Miami to represent Swipe. So we'll be more in touch with you in the next couple of months. We got invited to represent Swipe there. Look out for emails, and that's about it. So do you have any questions for Terri now?
Looks like there was questions about some of the social media, WhatsApp and WeChat. And yeah, I mean, it looks like a lot of people do use their own account, and I use my own as well. Especially because there's been so much about WeChat, I don't know that the school would want that on the account. So yeah, it looks like a lot of people do have their own. And I think it's fine just to do your own. And somebody put there for the OneNet, which is great. So I think a lot of the questions were answered. But yeah, if anybody else has a question or a comment, what I wanted to do was like pause and say, what other ideas do people have for some of these things? But we just didn't really have time, and it's a lot of information.
Terri, I can't imagine one person not going away with several things from what you just spoke about. I mean, there were so many amazing, it was, like I said, it was chock full. I mean, there was just so much there. So thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Terri while we have a few minutes together?
And I'm assuming that the presentation will be emailed out then later. I'll send a PDF and we can email it out. Yeah.
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 For sure. I know there's
Yeah.
a lot that I didn't write down. So
yeah.
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment. Terri, I really want to thank you. Sometimes in this work, we forget that our program should be student-centric. Because we're focused on so many things and trying to reach so many different people. And so that reminder was just very helpful, just to make sure it's all about the student experience. They are our primary customers. And so I just started that and I said, just go back to that because that will guide everything else that I do. So I thank you for that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, they are the center.
getting back to basics. That's the main reason why we do what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that reminder. Anyone else? While we have this amazing woman here, anyone else? Would anyone like to comment on how they experienced this time together?
I will say I really missed seeing everybody and having the camaraderie of getting to see each other and hear from different schools and the programs and our different programs and stuff like that. So I'm really glad we're back.
Me too, Tina. Thank you. Me too. Anyone else would like to share how they're experiencing this time together?
I just thought that was a fabulous presentation. Like there was so much in there. I was furiously taking notes, and I know we'll see the PDF later, but I'm just like side notes to myself and things to say to my admins, and it just so much. So thank you. That was a wealth of knowledge in a very short period of time, and I thank you for making that so useful and productive for all of us. That was awesome.
You're welcome. And if you need help too, like I'm available to do one-on-one work with schools, pretty low rate. I'm just doing it for fun because I do have a lot of information and I want to just be able to share it to make your program better. So definitely don't be afraid to reach out if you feel like for questions or if you want me to help out with a little project or whatever. I'm available to help any way I can.
Thank you, Terri. I want to issue a little challenge to everybody here. Would you be willing to share this? Because this recording is going to be sent to you. I highly encourage you to share this. This is going to be a subset of what's going to be happening this year in the Swipe community. They're going to hear a lot about what's happening. Would you be willing to share it with one or two schools, colleagues that you know that you think would be a good idea for them to be part of our community? That's our goal this year. It's always through word of mouth. You have to find it professionally fulfilling and personally fulfilling to be part of the community. And sharing that with others would be really great. And I can't think of a better way to do that than by today with Terri's presentation. It was just so excellent. And we can't thank you enough, Terri, that you are just so vested. I can see the integrity with which you bring things, just how much knowledge you have. You're a wealth of knowledge. So we are so grateful for you just being with us today. We all learned so much. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
All right, everyone, if no one has any other questions, it is 2:01. So glad you're here. I'm hanging out for the next 15 minutes. Please feel free if you have any questions. Really, thank you for coming. It's so good to see all of you. Gina, good to see you. I'll see you all next month.
Sounds good. Don't forget, if you're willing to help out, write your name and email in the chat. Joelle does have some helpers. And don't forget to fill out that member link if you haven't done so already. Thanks. See you next month.
Thanks,
You
Kimberly.
guys.
Joelle for the win. Joelle got.
I think it's not Joelle, it's our group. And the fact that there are 3 or 4 other people and more, I think, from the surveys that we'll be able to see want to have a conversation. Then let's say, Terri, you present, and then whether it's that 15 minutes or 30 after, or it's in 2 weeks, or there's a big something blows up on the listserv, and it's, you know what? Let's on Friday at 2 o'clock have an impromptu 30-minute conversation time and explore. So I will reach out to these 3 people who shared in the chat, and then from the membership survey, anyone that indicated an interest in that, and say, hey, let's brainstorm and let's get started.
Yeah, and I see Charity Moon was on, but it's good that she's gonna, that maybe could you follow up with her too? I know that you know her.
Who did you say?
Was on.
Charity
Yeah,
Moon.
yeah.
She
Jisung, you said.
Yeah, in the one
On the chat, I direct message each of the 3 that shared their email, and Jisung, I thought I was direct messaging and I wasn't, but I met her when we traveled to South Korea together last winter. And so I will email each of them, I said, within the next week, and say, let's set up a time to brainstorm. So.
Oh, great. Christy, can you stop the recording? I'm not sure if she's here with us, but I can't stop the recording.
I can stop it. I'll do it.
Okay, thank you, Terri.
Yeah.